So from what I'm hearing, Don King has not paid Daniel Dubois for his fight against Trevor Bryant, and Daniel Dubois is essentially suing Don King. Now, I'm not someone who grew up watching, 90s boxing, but I was made well aware of Don King and his shenanigans about how he exploited guys like Mike Tyson and just how dodgy he is in general. I mean, it's incredible to think at, his age, he's still, bothering with these shenanigans. And, if someone goes into the ring and risks their life, risk their health, they should be paid. Everyone has the right to be paid for the work that they put in. So, in that regard, I do feel bad for Daniel Dubois. Hopefully he gets his money and gets this issue sorted out. Though, because of what I've been told about Don King and who he is and how he was, I'm not surprised. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, the 90s wasn't that long ago. How old are you? I'm relatively young. That's why I wasn't watching 90s boxing, because to some people's surprise, they'll be like, what? How young are you? I wasn't born in the 90s. I was born in the 2000s. So that's why I'm not super duper aware of Don King and his shenanigans, though obviously I've heard some stuff and watched some videos about, how he's exploited certain guys, like I said before. So from what I've heard, Don King apparently doesn't want to pay Daniel Dubois his purse because of some issue he has with Frank Warren. I mean, if this is true, this is absolutely incredible. What on earth does Daniel Dubois have to do with Frank Warren? If he's got an issue with Frank Warren, he needs to sort that out with Frank Warren. He shouldn't be dragging Daniel Dubois into this situation, because Dubois has nothing to do with Frank Warren other than Frank Warren being his promoter. Dubois fights under Frank Warren and BT Sports and so on and so forth. If you have a problem with Frank Warren, don't try to get other people involved. And now I've also seen some people be a little bit critical of Frank Warren and say, well, Frank Warren should dig into his own pockets and make sure Dubois gets paid. And now, whilst I understand that point, Frank Warren's probably got a lot of money, let's just say. It's not his job to pay Daniel Dubois. It's Don King's problem. He's the one who should be paying Dubois. But yeah, it's just a shame to hear that Don King is essentially trying to exploit Daniel Dubois. Dubois fought under Don King's stable. He did his job, yet he hasn't received his paycheck. And to me, this is evident that a fighter shouldn't be loyal necessarily to one promoter. A promoter will only love a fighter as long as he has financial mileage. For instance, look at Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn. Kell Brook was, desperately trying to get that Amir Khan fight, telling Eddie Hearn, oh, come on, Eddie, when are we going to get this fight on? And Eddie Hearn, he just wasn't interested. He didn't think that, there was any value or any point in having, Kell Brook at pay-per-view, because, he was knocked out by Terence Crawford and that he was well past his best. Fortunately, though, for Kell Brook, he was able to get the fight against Amir Khan on Sky Sports. And if you remember in the build-up for the Daniel Dubois-Joe Joyce fight, Frank Warren made it very, very clear that essentially he wanted Daniel Dubois to win. That, he's seen Daniel Dubois as this guy who has a lot of financial mileage. Maybe he saw Daniel Dubois as his own Anthony Joshua. But now that Joe Joyce has, he beat Daniel Dubois, he beat guys like Takam, and he's on a very great run of form, and he's number one ranked. Frank Warren is coming out and passionately defending Joe Joyce, in press conferences against Joseph Parker. Do you see how it is? When Joyce wasn't as recognized, when before Joyce beat Daniel Dubois and was really respected, at least domestically in England, Frank Warren wasn't too fussed about him. But now, Frank Warren is defending Joe Joyce like an ugly man would defend his beautiful wife. That's literally how I see it. So yeah, in my opinion, fighters shouldn't necessarily be so loyal to these promoters. These promoters make a lot of money, and they're not the ones who are getting hit, they're not the ones who are going to have or potentially suffer the consequences these fighters may suffer, you know, several years after they retire. So there's no need for fighters to, be super loyal to these promoters because, they can be dodgy. And whilst most promoters are not as dodgy as Don King, at the end of the day, they see you as a marketing tool. All right, guys, let me know what you think about Don King not paying Daniel Dubois. Are you surprised? Are you not? Personally, I'm not surprised because I have an understanding of the reputation of Don King, even though I didn't grow up watching like 90s boxing. You obviously go back, recap, look at the era, and so on and so forth, and you're being made aware of guys like Don King. Alright, guys, peace.